The Bucs just had a shocking name, one that has been brought up a few times, but one that would be a big surprise to Bucs fans to be picked in the first round. We're going to do a deep dive into that, along with what is the perfect first round pick for the Bucs in this upcoming NFL draft? There are a handful of names, but the guys here on the show, including me, will make our picks there on who we think the Bucs should go after in the first round. We've also got some prize picks to make. We got the Masters going on, so we're going to make some picks with them. Also, who is the most commonly mocked draft pick for the Bucs in 2026? There's a certain name there, one that just played in a national championship. We'll talk about that. And also, the Bucs have been very busy with a handful of signings, including bringing back a Buccaneers Super Bowl champion. We'll end off the show with that topic. But with me this morning is River Wells, our lead editor at BucsGameday.com. And then all the way to the other side is Caleb Skinner, our veteran writer at BG. Gentlemen, good morning and happy Friday to you and also all of our listeners in the chat.
Absolutely ready to get out there and talk draft. It's always one of my favorite times of the year. And now we're really getting into the thick of it here, as it's just a few days away, just about 2 weeks. So let's get after it.
Yeah, 2 weeks yesterday was that 2-week mark. Excited for it. Tons of mocks getting put out. Tons of looking at the history of drafts and things of that nature. So as much draft content as you could possibly consume out there right now. So it's been exciting to see where people have guys falling, where the Buccaneers are going to be drafting, what they're kind of interested in, and we're going to break that all down for you guys here today.
And perhaps some smoke screens to talk about as well.
Yeah, maybe so. That's what I'm thinking here. Maybe is Jason Light doing some smoke screens? I mean, it seems like he's done that in years past before. Is that the strategy from Jason Light? I mean, maybe it could be. Well, we've got a handful of names, of course, to talk about. If you're here with us on YouTube, throw in some comments, hit that like button if you have any questions or topics or any names that you guys would like us to dive even deeper into. We most certainly will here on the show this morning. But gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started. So this morning there was an article that went out from ESPN, Ian Rappaport, along with a lot of NFL insiders, including our very own down here in Tampa with Jenna Lane, representing ESPN, and they put out a piece talking about where the Bucs are at going into this NFL draft, which positions. Actually, the topic was how many defensive players will the Buccaneers draft in April. This is what Jenna had to say. She started off with edge rusher, inside linebacker, and cornerback are needed, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them doubling up at corner again. But the Buccaneers are also doing a lot of work on this year's tight end class, and have looked at a lot of interior offensive linemen for depth and will not pass up a best player available situation at a non-needed position. So I'd say as many as 5 defensive players will be selected. And now Jordan Reed also gave his thoughts on this as well, and it gets very interesting. He said defensive end and tight end are 2 positions that the Bucs have keyed in on as round 1 options, with tight end Kenyon Sadiq from the Oregon Ducks being a real possibility at number 15. And I know in last week's show, gentlemen, we were talking about Kenyon quite a bit. We talked about some other offensive players as well, but specifically when we're talking about the first round, this would potentially be back-to-back NFL drafts for Jason Light to go in and kind of stun everybody when we all think that they need to go after an edge rush, a linebacker, look to the future. But now it's like you got to be able to fill a void with losing Levante David. They've got to, make a move on the defensive side, or is now Jason Light going to shock all of us once again? Or is it smoke, like you said, River? Is it smoke?
I wouldn't be surprised given that they kind of went best player available last year with the Emeka Egbuka, right? At the time, especially given that Chris Godwin wasn't going to be ready in time for week 1. But we'll get into this later. Getting Kenyon Sadiq, I don't think moves the needle too much for this team. But if they really feel like they want to do that, this number 15 pick the Bucs have is perhaps one of the hardest picks in the draft to make, because they definitely need a linebacker and an edge rusher badly. But at that point, a lot of the top ones will be off the board. Very deep class. But there will be a lot of decisions to make in regards to those 2 positions once you get there. If you love a guy, if you don't love a guy, well, you want to trade back. There will be some BPA talent available for you there as well, but do you really want to do that given the needs in the defense? So this is a tough place to be for the Buccaneers, and how they handle it will be pretty interesting. We've talked about whether or not they should trade back. We talked about whether or not they should trade up. They have a lot of room to work either way, and they have a lot of decisions to make at that point because there's a lot of options from the people you need with edge rusher and linebacker and all those defensive players, and the people you don't because they'll be a valuable BPA if you think that you can still win picking them that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hard to disagree with River there. I don't think you need to go. I've said this, multiple times here on the podcast. I don't think you need to go tight end that early. I mentioned Oscar Delp last episode as well, that we were on as somebody you can get, in the mid rounds there for you if you were to go get a tight end here in the NFL draft. So it's a real interesting spot to be in. You've seen a lot of mentions of teams being active possibly on that or draft day trades too. So like that's something that might be more prevalent in this draft because of how deep positions like linebacker, specifically off ball, edge rushers as well here in the first, 2 rounds, pretty deep, top heavy, but deep overall classes there. So they're going to be at a premium, whether Ty Simpson makes it in there as well. So there's a lot of different factors that are going to come into play when it comes down to it. And sitting at 15, as River mentioned, it's a really, I don't even know what the right word is because it's in a spot where you're kind of in like no man's land, right? Like you're stuck in a spot and you can make a solid pick here, right? But there are probably better moves that you could make depending on how the board starts to fall off, especially right like before you in those first top 10 picks. As somebody who covers the Commanders, there's been a lot of talk about that as well from their side of things. Adam Peters even potentially being able to push back and get more draft capital there for them. So maybe you want to move up, get one of these, higher potential guys or one of the guys that are more proven, more so than Kenyon Sadiq at the tight end that you don't necessarily need, or a guy that's more of a developmental piece there in the first round. So interesting. We're going to get into talking about some of these guys and what we think should happen, but I don't think Sadiq is the right move. I know Tom Pelissero has also mentioned him this morning as well in some of the talk that he's had regarding him. So it'll be interesting to see. But back-to-back years going offense in the first round isn't necessarily it, especially with the cover that you currently do have in Tampa on offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you look at it right now, Payne Durham, along with two you are bringing back, of course, we saw in free agency with Cade Otton. You would like to see where Devin Culp could get involved more. He seems to be more of a red zone guy for you, but we have seen him go through these training camps and these practices and look good and sharp there, but there's still some growth that he still needs to have, obviously, from what we're seeing from the staff because they don't put him out there as much. But it made sense for Cade Otton to come back, but with how Zach Robinson likes to run his offenses, he does like to have a couple tight ends out there that can do some things. And right now it feels like, Payne Durham is more specifically for your blocking. Devin Culp is still developing. And then Cade Otton is Cade Otton, your pure TE1. So I agree. I mean, I think you need to build up on that defensive side of the ball, but it gets interesting. I'll end it off here on this topic. Do you think Jason Licht does get aggressive to go get one of those top premier pass rushers earlier in the draft, or does he do his usual and kind of hold back or even trade backwards? What do you guys think?
The second one is far more likely, I think, especially given that the Bucs need a lot of defensive depth right now. So if you trade back, you can get an extra pick, maybe day 2, early day 3, and then you can use that to help shore up that depth there. He's really not a fan of giving out capital at all. Yeah. So I don't think he would trade up. You never know, though. And he likes to tell you that. You never know. I'm open to do anything, but he hasn't really done that very often. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If he does trade up, and he has traded up before, but it's usually very, short bursts and increments. So it's possible that he could trade up a few spots, but going all the way up is not usually his cup of tea.
Mm-hmm. It seems... I think this is a portion of it where it's of the podcast and what we're talking about here is they're in a precarious situation, obviously. And I think the move here in this draft in particular, in the way that I think that the draft board is going to fall, is that you're going to want quantity over quality. If you are going to give up draft capital, you're going to want to be in those first 3 picks, and those guys aren't moving right now, those teams that are in those positions aren't really moving because what else after that are you really looking at? You're going to be looking at guys that could potentially be bust or potentially be, game changers for you. But that's pretty much this whole top, class when it comes to the defense, whether you're looking at cornerback, linebacker, or edge rushers, right? They're all, very top heavy in what they're able to do deep, but still very top heavy. So I think you want to get more picks here, be able to give yourself some options at different positions as well, because you do have, you can still get undrafted guys in here. We saw some of those undrafted guys be able to make the roster. Look at Christian Izien and what he was able to do. You're going to have to make cuts one way or another, and you just brought in 2 more corners, some other defensive line depth here that we'll get to later. But you're in this position where you are going to want more players. The Buccaneers have shown that they're not going to go get the most quality of pieces, right? So continue that here into the NFL draft. Go get guys that are going to be good, solid level floors, but have the potential to be even bigger. And I think that starts with you being able to trade back and getting more draft capital.
Yeah. Let's go into some of these picks, gentlemen, who we think are the best first-round draft picks. Before that, though, I'm going to go ahead and name off a few outlets, some names, some insiders, analysts, however you want to name it, that have been linking some of these to the Bucs in the first round. We've got Hakeem Mesidor from Miami. We've got Kedrick Falk, another player from the SEC, coming from Auburn. Jermon McCoy, a Tennessee cornerback there. Kenyon Sadiq, as we were just speaking about, from Oregon. CJ Allen, a linebacker from Georgia. This one's actually coming from CBS sports analyst Pete Prisco. You got Cassius Howell. This is from he's from Texas A&M, off the edge. This is from the Draft Network specifically. We also got Anthony Hill Jr., a linebacker from Texas. A handful of draft boards have been putting them up there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of names of Hakeem Mesidor. This is from CBS Sports. You got Kedrick Falk from Auburn, and like I said, Jermon McCoy. Which feels good to you? Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. You probably hear it on my
you gotta take it. You gotta take it, man. Yeah. No, we'll talk more about this when we talk more about Mesidor, which we will later in the show. I am not a fan of Hakeem Mesidor. So that is an option for them, probably the biggest option. But not a fan of him. Not a fan of Kedrick Falk either. He kind of plays an in-between role right now. His weight, he kind of projects a little bit more inside, perhaps. But even if he goes outside and plays edge rusher, he's a very raw prospect. And I don't know if the Bucs have the wherewithal to be able to sit down and develop that project like he needs to be. So, honestly, I like trading back, man. I really do. We talked about this on our previous show, but I think there's a lot of really good talent you can get at edge rusher and linebacker down at the bottom of the round. I particularly like from Oklahoma, R. Mason Thomas is an edge rusher. I'm not alone. He's got a lot of believers out there, so not exactly a hot take. But guys like that, if you want to go at 15, I like corner. I do. So guys like, I don't know if Mansour Delane's probably going to fall to 15, but if he does, I would not mind that at all. Guys like McCoy and people who can play outside, they don't need a nickel corner, right? So that's something to keep in mind as well. But I wouldn't mind that. I think there's a lot of good value for edge rusher down at the bottom of the round. I think trading down would be the best way, but not a fan of Mesidor, not a fan of Falk.
Yeah, I don't disagree with River at all. I'm in the same boat. I've never been a big Kedrick Falk fan. I know, like, coming out of high school, highly touted, was supposed to be a freak of nature and never really developed into the player that, warranted his 5-star rating coming out.
Florida State, Florida State was pursuing him hard.
Pretty heavy. Ended up going to Auburn. And
one of the usual times Florida State comes in at number 2 in some of those big 5-star recruiting battles. So we knew about Kedrick Falk, and
it don't really end up panning out.
Doesn't really sell me much.
That's just what it is. And so, like, I'm not a huge fan of him. I know he's been, numerous mocks towards or for the Bucs there at 15. And again, Mesidor, I like him better. I think, funny enough, Max Crosby went on some show and had some pretty, great words and great thoughts on Hakeem Mesidor and what he was able to do and the type of player he is and, his abilities off the edge, which are great. Like, yes. But then again, you do have to, realize too at the same time, like Mesidor started West Virginia, transferred to Miami, and he's a much older player than everybody else in the draft, right? I think he's
25.
25. Yeah. He'll be 26 by the time, I believe, 26 years old by the time the season gets underway. So that's an interesting aspect you got to take into it. Like, you didn't see that production level from him until he made it to Miami, where he had Ruben Bain coming off of the other side. And that's fine. Maybe he was just a late bloomer, and that's okay.
Also dealing with a foot injury as well. Keep that in mind too. So his age and injury history don't really add up.
Right. And so again, I'm right here with River, and you're looking at like Zion, the guy out of Mizzou. R. Mason has been thrown around a bit. Like there's guys out there that you'll be able to get, later in the first round, early second round, if maybe, so be it. That I like a little bit more. And I think ultimately they should trade back, right? Like there's no reason for you to trade up. There's no reason for you to sit at 15 unless your guy falls to you. I like the cornerback picks too, even though they did bring in some guys in free agency recently. Jermod McCoy, kind of a riser right now, a guy being talked about a lot. What is his name? Avion Terrell, the corner out of Clemson. Obviously, he's been dealing with some injuries of his own that have been kind of had a watchful eye over top of him, but somebody else you could trade back and be able to get draft capital for as well. If Mansour is there at 15, don't even question it. You just go ahead and draft him. You're not going to come around a guy like that at 15 very often, in my opinion. But a lot of these guys aren't blowing me away with where the Bucs currently sit, right? So that's kind of the problem that they find themselves in.
I'd like to quickly shout out JC Allen there in our comments. One of our guys here at BucsGameday. Vega Ione. Definitely like Vega Ione as well. Inside interior lineman. Definitely really big mauler in the run game. I think the Bucs could use someone like that. So it would not be opposed. Probably the only offensive pick where I'd be like, yeah, I like that. Otherwise, not a big fan of the potential Sadiq move, but we'll see what Jason Light wants to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going, so really, who would you guys pick right now out of your list, your personal list? Not going off of any NFL analyst.
Man.
You
go first, Caleb.
Because I'm gonna trade back. if we're going off what we're gonna do, I'm trading back. So I'm not taking a pick at 15. But if I were to take a pick at 15, if I had to take a pick at 15, I would probably go Mesidor because it's the safe play. It's a high floor. You don't really know what the ceiling is type of player. And, maybe he meshes well when Kalijah Kancey's back in the lineup, Vita Vea's in there, and you got Yaya on the other side. You stay healthy and things come across. David Walker takes that next step. You hit them in a rotation with one another and, bam, bam, whoa, like something works out. So if I were forced to take the pick at 15, I would probably go Mesidor because he's probably going to be a guy that's around at this point. Now, if Ruben Bain were to be around here at 15, I would hop at the opportunity to take him. He's kind of in that Mansour range for me, despite the short arms. I do like Bain a lot. I do like what his production level was at Miami. I like he's all about ball. That's a type of player I want. That should be a type of player that Todd Bowles absolutely loves. Dude doesn't cut his fro. He doesn't, get braids. He doesn't do anything. He just goes out there and plays ball. Has a great bend off of the edge. So if Bain makes it to 15, that's another guy like a Mansour that I say you go ahead and snatch up, but I don't think he'll be there. So I think you go with Mesidor if I had to pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if Delane's there, I'd rather take him. If Vega's there, I'd rather take him. I like McCoy. I'm just not really a big fan of Mesidor, but we'll see what happens there. Like I said, with Caleb, I would rather trade back. I'd rather trade back for guys like R. Mason Thomas. If you want production who's not 25 years old, Malachi Lawrence is also out there as well, right? So those are also other options for you at edge rusher. The one thing I will say, off-ball linebacker in the first round is a no-go for me. I think the positional value there is very poor, and you can get some quality players later on at that position. So I wouldn't want to spend a first-round pick on off-ball linebacker. That includes people like Sonny Styles.
And I think
we'll see what happens with how the players fall, but there's quite a few people I like more than Mesidor, and I would be willing to take them over that.
I mean, with how things have kind of trickled out or come about, or the rumblings that we have heard through social media, obviously, and things of that nature, is that like these are the three-ish areas that the Buccaneers are really looking for early on. I don't know tight end coming in, play whatever, wide receivers, whatever, maybe, but
right.
highly doubtful in my opinion, where it's usually edge, linebacker, corner right now for the Buccaneers, right? So with the off-ball linebacker situation, it is a bit intriguing because Sonny Styles is one of those players that is kind of that versatile guy.
And he's going to go
right.
High.
He's going to go.
He's not going to be even close to 15.
Right, and that's my thing too, or else I would take him. If he were there at 15, he's probably another one of those guys that you would take at 15, but he's not going to be there. So who else are you going to take?
Yeah.
So yeah. That's where it makes it very interesting. So we did put on an article, River, you wrote this, and the most commonly mocked player so far, we're just a little bit away from the draft, but the most commonly that you've rounded up is Hakeem Mesidor. And you have your pros and cons. I know we've spoken on them just a little bit, but the injuries there to both feet. It's not just one foot, but it's both feet that he's had issues with. I believe it was torn ligaments in both feet. Yes. But, for longevity of that size too, coming off the edge and everything, that makes it concerning, of course. Shorter arms than a prototypical elite edge rusher would usually have. But that high motor, the technical ability, the experience that he has as well, and how he could fit into Todd Bowles' defense is attractive, I'm sure, to, the Bucs defense and such. But there are pros and certainly cons. But that is the most commonly mocked player is Hakeem Mesidor. And you just got to wonder how that matches off the other side. If that is your pick and that ends up happening, Yaya Diaby from the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
Are you who almost feels at even keel to me? I mean, we wouldn't be able to tell this until we get into an actual game, but you're not seeing where Hakeem Mesidor is that elite pass rusher, and then that helps on the other side of Yaya Diaby. You know what I'm saying? Unless Yaya Diaby makes another humongous jump right there, you're looking for someone that is, at a higher caliber of talent, I think, at least getting to the quarterback, getting to the sacks than Yaya Diaby is currently.
Yeah, this is a tough one with Mesidor because, like we've mentioned, very old for a prospect. He has some injury history there. Knows Tampa Bay, went to high school in Clearwater, so that's kind of fun.
But, there you go. All right.
Yeah, the thing about Mesidor is that when you're that old and you have a great season like he did, and he uses finesse very well against rushers, right? We've seen a lot of physical talent there. He's got a really high motor, Mesidor. That's one of the things I'm most impressed with him. But not the biggest physical specimen for the NFL as far as length, as far as size. And there's always a thing in your head, and this doesn't work for every prospect who's this old. There have been plenty of older prospects at multiple positions who've worked out very well, particularly at quarterback. Joe Burrow was a fairly old quarterback prospect, ended up hitting immediately. Bo Nix looks pretty decent so far in his 2 years. You have to wonder, are you really dominating toward the end of your career as a college player, or are you just 25 and everyone else experienced? You played at that point 6 years of football, being in and out of the practice facility, taking reps, playing games. And with a guy that's not a physical freak like Mesidor, I think there's a lot of questions on, this could be a high floor guy, like everybody's saying, like, he comes in and he gets a lot of sacks and he shows that experience, or he was outclassing people way younger than him with less experience. He gets to the NFL and suddenly it's a different ballgame. So a lot of interesting questions to be had with Mesidor. I think he has shown, like I said, to have some really good finesse rushing skills. He's shown to, have a really high motor and constantly be kicking, but playing alongside Ruben Bain, being as old as he was, the injury history. There's a lot of interesting things to look at with him. So I am curious if the Bucs like him a lot, or if they're going to take those things into consideration.
Let's see.
I don't think. Go ahead. I don't think any Buccaneers fans are going to be mad with a guy coming in that's going to be able to provide you with 7-8 sacks.
If that's the case.
Right.
Yes.
If that's the case. Like, I'm not going to be mad, right? I'm not going to be mad if a guy comes in 7-8 sacks. You get 5, 6, 7 out of the other side. Like, fantastic. This is awesome. Like, this is what we're working with. Great. It's definitely an improvement from where we have been. The problem arises where you're going to get that production for this assumed production for a limited amount of time. I mean, we're already talking about edge rushers like Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson being 29, 30 years old and at the end, like nearing the end of their, NFL careers. Or not.
And that would be Mesidor's first. That would be Mesidor's first contract.
But that would be his first contract, right? And so then what are you going to do? Like, if the production's still there, then you have to pay him or let him walk, or you're going to have to be like, either we're going to have to cut bait, let you walk, or you're not producing enough and, see ya. Like, you're just putting yourself in a very similar situation that you've been in. I don't think it changes a whole lot. Now, if he comes in and he's a 12-plus sack guy, sick. To me, if he comes in and is able to be a 12-sack guy, which I don't think he is, if he is able to do that, then yeah, you're getting your money's worth, because are you going to really be excited about spending a first-round pick on a guy who gets 7 sacks?
12 sacks would be a home run.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But if you're picking at 15 because you missed the playoffs, I'd want a home run guy. Like, you're picking in the first half of all NFL teams, right? So am I getting what, like, true bang for my buck? I don't know, especially when I'm only getting maybe 3 to 4 years out of it. That's a big concern for me. And it's not something that I'm going to jump at to be like, yeah, this is the guy that I want on my team. Albeit, I loved his motor at Miami. I mean, you saw him in the playoffs, him and Bain.
It's the most impressive part of this game.
Barely taken off the field. And they're chasing, who was chasing around? They were chasing around, was it Chambliss, for like years during that semifinal game. Like years. It felt like they were just all game having to chase him sideline to sideline. And they were doing a fantastic job at being able to do that. They were lucky to win that game because he was making some incredible plays with his legs and his arm.
Yeah.
But a lot of that the reason he had to do that was because of what Mesidor, more so Mesidor than Bain, was able to do in that game.
And his coach at Miami was Jason Taylor. So there's a pedigree there for you too. Yeah.
Which he has high remarks for him too. And I get it. The guy's good. Like, I'm not trying to diminish his abilities as a edge rusher or whatever. He's also decent against the run too. But like, there's little factors that come into play here that, are you willing to give up a first round pick for him? To me, no.
Let me go through some of the comments in here. Appreciate everybody commenting in the chat. Tampa Guy 6370 is saying, trade down, pick up a 3rd-round pick, and get a defensive end. Don't mess with the 26-year-old rookies. A lot of Sunny Styles chatter, and here JC's saying the thing with Sadiq is I think the Bucs might just say F it and make this offense elite and say the defense is more than a 1-year fix. Let's make our offense unstoppable.
Paging the Cincinnati Bengals of the National Football League.
We're going to join the Bengals. Bucs are headed down the Bengals. How's that work for them? How's that done?
You want to talk about getting somebody fired? That's how you get somebody fired.
Well, that could be the plan.
And so, Sadiq would be a red zone threat that they don't have with Mike Evans right now, right? I mean, there would be benefits to bringing him on. Again, assuming everything translates to the NFL level. But the question with him is, do you think the Bucs can afford to pick a BPA at 15? If you think the answer is no, and I don't think it is, then that would be rough. If you think it is, and to be fair, general managers want to think it is. Every time. That's going to be their mindset. We got to get the best player available. There you go. That would be it. That would be a way to do that. But I think with how much they really need on defense, that would be a bit of a misstep.
But and then again, if you really want that offensive weapon, why not go get more draft picks? Why not trade back and get more draft picks when you can get a wide receiver that's still in this area of player, like maybe a Denzel Boston, maybe a Ted Hurst in day 2 or something like that. Like, if you're going to do that, go do that. Like, don't leap at the first opportunity. Like, there's no point in doing so.
Yeah.
I don't think this front office would do that, but they've surprised me in the past.
Yeah, they have. I mean, you don't technically have to go after another Mike Evans. I know that's like the easy thing for mocks to put out there, that you got to find someone that can take care of business for you in the red zone.
Not easy.
Now, you still need to target some of that, but do you need to do it in the first round? I think that's where Caleb's, explaining there to everybody that doesn't necessarily need to be the case for you. You can go find other targets that can help you do that.
Absolutely.
And two, I mean, not that he's a wide receiver, but Kenneth Gainwell, I mean, he's going to be such a great addition in the red zone and what you could do. I mean, I'm a Steelers fan. I watch how much he's utilized in that red zone. They usually give the ball to Jalen Warren, then you see Kenneth Gainwell, and he takes it to the end zone for you to finish off that drive. So I think he's going to be a big player in that. But you do need to find someone in the wide receiver room that can do that for you. Maybe Jalen McMillan. You just need a X, though, that can take on those one-on-ones. In the red zone. Here's Buccaneer Bryce saying, I think there's a chance a player like Downs, Delane, Bain falls to us. We see it every year. Usually a player falls farther than consensus. It happened with Kyle Hamilton to the Ravens a few years ago. That would be nice if Bain fell, right?
Jalen Carter who fell to the Eagles too.
Yeah, there's going to be players with some concerns that fall. I think Zion Young's one of the people to watch from Mizzou. A lot of character red flags on him. That might be a guy that ends up falling pretty far. If you want to take a chance on that, Jason Light tends to say he doesn't like to take a chance on people like that. But you'll never know. And I think Caleb Downs has like a issue as a regenerative tissue issue.
Regenerative ACL.
Yeah, so that's probably not great. But Downs is a generational safety prospect. But
there's other
however
players
you want to weigh that,
there's other players that have had that too, and they've had solid careers. So
for sure, and I mean Downs is an excellent safety prospect. So hard to tell until draft day hits. But there might be someone at 15 you don't expect to be there, and then people go, "Oh, I want to pick them," and they don't still for all the reasons they fell. So it'll be always fun to see how that shapes out.
I don't think either of those three really are guys that I foresee falling in this draft. And we do see it every year. Kyle Hamilton's a wild one. I don't know why that ever happened. That's weird to me. But crazy. But with that being said, like, who knows? I mean, we've seen the David Bailey stuff with the photographer come out on social media, and that's starting to be brought up a little bit in these circles of scouting circles and things of that nature. But I really don't see him falling anywhere near to that. So again, I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning. It really depends on what's going to happen in these first 10 picks, because you don't know what the Commanders are going to do. And then 7 through 10 is particularly that area where you're going to be like, okay, these are where you're going to start to see teams like move up or down. And that's going to be kind of the determining factor on what happens when Tampa Bay comes on the clock.
I got to bring this up here, though, because I know the reason why. Or not that one, but where'd it go? I think it's this one. River, we know why, because guess who Sonny Styles is?
Who is Sonny Styles?
Ruff, ruff. He's a bulldog.
He's not
a Buckeye.
He's
a Buckeye.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I mean, I'm thinking of
now.
I'm thinking of CJ Allen. I'm thinking of CJ Allen.
If you
look
at
CJ.
If you look at my hat.
Oh my God.
Detroit heritage. So I don't like Buckeyes either.
That.
I don't like Buckeyes either. No, I mean,
I was thinking,
Styles looks
thinking
excellent.
CJ.
I will. If you guys want to have a fun little debate here before we go on to the next topic, we talk
on this right here.
We talk about how often running backs are like the least important position in the offense, right? Like you can replace them easy. They come in and out. The way that they're paid showcase their production value. What position do you think that is for the defense? What's the running back of defense? Because in my mind, it's off-ball linebacker, right?
Coming at you.
The difference between a truly elite off-ball linebacker and then like the skill gap is not that big, I think, in the NFL. There are superstars like Fred Warner and then everybody else. And if you think you're going to get a Fred Warner with Sonny Styles, that's great. But I think off-ball linebacker is such a averaged out position at this point where really good ones and really bad ones can't affect the game, but the swing on that I think is less than the other position. So corners I feel are more valuable in the essence that like a great running back can change the game more than a great corner, but a bad corner can change the game way more than a bad running back, right? So just off-ball linebacker is important.
Vernon Hargraves. Shit, sorry.
The Bucs.
Oh sorry, that came out of nowhere.
You could say that for sure. The Bucs really need an off-ball linebacker. I'm not diminishing how important that is, especially in a top Bulls defense where it actually matters a little bit more than other defensive systems. But I think off-ball linebacker in today's day and age, I guess, in the first round, not great positional value at all. It's similar, I feel, to a running back. Picking a running back in the first round, giving them money to pay them, I think is kind of crazy. Think about how much money Ashton Jonty is making in comparison to the rest of the running backs in the NFL and the production that he had last year outside of that, depending on the offensive line, depending on scheme.
Yeah.
It's tough. So that's the only reason why I would shy away from a Sonny Styles really high. And he's going to be a top 5 pick, I think. And that's going to be crazy.
Yeah. He should be. And you think about it too. I mean, these off-ball linebackers aren't built like they're in 2012 anymore, right? Like it was such a huge era.
The front seven has become so important.
Right. It's become such a position, like it was a positional shift, right? Like back then. Where you were like, oh gosh, like we need a guy who can cover sideline to sideline, but also can fill a hole, but also can make plays, but also has high IQ. Great. So we need a guy who can do it all. And you got that. Like that era was just nothing but those guys, right? And like that's what you wanted. It's kind of shifted a little bit more. Like you either want a guy like a Sonny Styles who is still kind of like that mold, right? Like he's that mold, but the rest of these guys, you don't really see them fitting that mold. It's like one or the other, you're a specialist at this. So it is interesting, which comes back to the running back thing. It's like running back, you're either a guy who's between the tackles or outside the tackles, or you're a guy who's a pass catching back, a change of pace back, or you're a guy like a Saquon Barkley, Jeremiah Love, probably about to be the highest paid running back as soon as he enters the league. Like, unless you're one of those guys, like you're not going to get what you expect out of them, right? Like, so it's an interesting area to be in. And I agree with River. I agree with everybody else that Sonny Styles will probably be gone at this point. If he is there, you take him. But other than that, you don't need to reach for a off-ball linebacker at 15. And I mean, if you trade back and CJ Allen sitting there late in the first round, and that's where you end up, sure, go ahead, do it. But like, no need to reach for any of those guys.
Yeah.
No. You know, we do need to reach into, gentlemen, though, are some prize picks, gentlemen. Prize picks. Shout out the prize picks. I know we didn't get to make some picks on our last show last week, but this time we've got it on the screen. We get to see the phone live, and it's Masters Week. It's like the perfect time to jump into it with prize picks. If you guys use code HMA, it's down below, River right there. If you play 5, get 50 instantly. Make sure you download the app too using code HMA. Our link is actually in the description down below if you guys want to go check it out. But Prize Picks is awesome. We've been using it. We also do it over there at Noel Game Day with Hear the Spear, that show over there. So we've been rocking, doing some NBA. But these guys on here, they watch the Masters like I do as well. So I thought it'd be perfect if I can get this back on the screen. But gentlemen, what are we feeling like here? Because it's Rory started off hot, man. He started off hot. If we click on him, he went 67 yesterday, starting on Thursday. 6-7, 6-7. Throw it up, River. Throw it up. Do we say less here on the pick for Rory to add to our entry?
You're on strokes, brother.
For what specifically?
Yeah, you're on strokes. What are we looking at here?
71.
I'm thinking. Oh,
I think he shoots better than 71. I think he's really hot right now. Yeah, I definitely go less.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling is less there, because they also do allow for, you could go actually make team picks. We'll probably do that in next week's episode, but specifically for this, I thought we'd just throw in a couple of picks for.
The whole question with Rory McIlroy was going to be whether once he got that Masters win, he got the monkey off his back, was he going to just kind of coast the rest of the time, or was it going to unlock him basically and get that complete weight off his shoulders? And man, after that round yesterday, I think we're looking at the latter there. So he's playing great golf.
He's playing like he has no pressure in the world, and like I don't think I took that into account when I was looking at the field and everything. And I was like, he won it last year. He hasn't.
I think that was a viable thing to think, but I think it's the opposite.
He hasn't played in like a month. He's been whatever, but I mean, he's looking sharp early, and I like the under there, or the under less.
There you go. Is the and there what I love about Prize Picks, they've also, you can go down, I call it shaving, going to the barbershop and shaving it down a little bit, but you can also do that on Birdies or Better. You can also go over there. They have all kinds of things that you can do, but we're just going to stick simple there. We'll stick to the strokes, and we'll go less on that at 71. Who else? Let's add 2 other players in this. Man, Bryson had a really rough start.
Give me a more.
You think so? He goes back-to-back days on it?
71.5.
71.5. That's pretty high, but I mean, it was shambolic yesterday, and I think Bryson's a type of player where, once he gets in the headspace, he's in the headspace, right? So it is possible he could come rolling back. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think after a really tough day like that, it's hard to bounce back for him. So I would go more.
I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to go under. I think it is a bounce back for Bryson.
Yeah.
I'll let Logan be the tiebreaker there, but I think a bounce back. I think that round one, he's a little bit distracted coming off that, the par 3 challenge with Kevin Hart at his caddy. By the way, the Masters doesn't need the waste management open treatment.
I didn't like all that stuff yesterday. Even the day before that.
It was Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. We don't need all that at the Masters, so let's just quit that and say, this was not what we needed and get back to the regular par 3 contest and how that's supposed to go with families and things. But I think he's a little distracted, had a lot going on, the YouTube thing, whatever. But I think he's going to get back into shape here. And I like him. I like taking the less there. I think he'll probably shoot like a 70, 71, at worst a 72, which is a par. That's kind of what they're sitting at here. They expect a little bit of a bounce back from him too. And I think he'll just do, one stroke enough to be able to get there.
Yeah, I didn't like all the Kevin Hart stuff. Like, I love Kevin Hart. Everybody has their different takes on Jason
tournament,
Kelce.
Man. It's the par 3.
I don't need it though. I don't need it. I don't want it. They're like, what is happening with all these like TikToks? We're trying to get all these short little clips out and everything. I don't need all that. And I think Twitter at least showed them the last few days that that's not the right move.
I mean, if Bryson were to win the Masters, the content would be crazy. On
oh my goodness!
I did what off the charts. Yeah.
So here's the deal on my Hear the Spear picks. I had to make some for our clipped out videos. I did do Bryson DeChambeau to win the Masters, so that didn't help for a whole ton for my start there. But I think he does bounce back. The weather's looking good, right? We got a weather check. Anybody? Weather's looking good. Chat. Can someone tell us what Augusta's looking like? I think it's gorgeous all weekend, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any, weather supposed to be
68 today, and then
beautiful.
High of 77 today, high of 84 Saturday, high of 82 Sunday. Sunny all the time.
This is a birdies are better matchup. We already got Rory on that, but man, I did not know you could do all of this. But so we can't do another Rory pick. But do we want anything on Patrick Reed, because he's having a nice start as well?
He had a great Masters last year as well. For all of Patrick Reed's detractors, of which there are many, he has been playing. He's playing great golf right now. So I think it's hard to bet against him at the moment. Really great time at Augusta last year, having a good time this year. I think he's playing good golf right now.
Would we do strokes, or do you guys want to do birdies right here? Because this seems like
birdies is so hard, man. We could, yeah.
They're struggling to putt out there so far this morning, so it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, they are. Okay.
I tend to.
He needs 4.
He's at 72 right now. I'd honestly go less on the strokes. I mean,
and we got kicked.
Yeah, StreamYard says, nope, you don't get to make any picks. We think more on this? We think more on the birdies, you're saying?
Yeah.
I think he hits 4. I think it's 4.
I mean, you got to take into account, too, this is like Patrick Reed's home course. Like, this is like
right.
He's grown up playing this course. Like,
yes, that's true.
Like all the time. So he always plays it extremely well. There's our 3 picks, which is awesome. And then
I like it.
I'll just throw out some guys to watch. Obviously, I'm going to be following our guy Brooks. He's kind of looking good ever since his return to the PGA Tour. But the guy I like to win it all is Xander Schauffele. He's looking extremely comfortable in what his stuff is right now. Looks really good, and maybe even throw in Spieth, an incredible shot from behind one of the magnolia trees yesterday to get up and down for par. So. Just doing Jordan Spieth things, as we know at the Masters. So those are 2 guys that I do like.
I will brag for 1 second, and then we'll get back to Bucs football. I have correctly picked the Masters winner 3 of the last 5 years. The only time I've ever lost was to Scotty Scheffler. Twice.
Scotty got you.
So this year I went with a really crazy oddball pick. First Masters, Chris Gotterup. He is currently T11. He's 4 strokes back. I'm all in on it, baby.
Okay, all right. Watch out. We'll have to check back in on this next week.
Augusta favors the long driver. But we'll see what happens. It'll be fun.
I like it. Well, gentlemen, here's our picks right here from Prize Picks. We're going to do the power play right here. We feel really strongly about these three that we have selected on the screen for you guys. Like I said, the link is down in the description below. Shout out to Prize Picks. Use code HMA if you're a new user coming in. It's the #1 sports picks app in America, and we appreciate them a whole ton for sponsoring this episode of Here Are the Cannons. Now, gentlemen, let's get back to our duties here, and let's talk about some new signings that the Bucs have made. They've been very busy in the last week or so. I'll go through and start naming off a handful of these, and we can jump into whoever we want to. But let's start off with Hakeem Nunez-Roches. As we all know that name, Mr. Nacho himself. He's back. He won a Super Bowl with the Bucs too, but he's signing on a 1-year deal. There's some good depth, some help there behind Vita, yep. Mr. Vea.
I'm just excited for those locker room visits, even though I won't be there anymore to see them in person. But
Nacho is fun.
Nacho, very entertaining in the locker room.
So great in the locker room, dude. I love it.
Mm-hmm. And his video that he did with the Bucs, they had to censor out him yelling a F word. I love it. I like
it. It's classic Nacho, right? Like, he's not going to care like what he says. It's just
no. And I love it because also too, if you guys remember being at training camp or practices, you would hear him from a mile away. You're like, "Yep, Nacho's out there," and you're like, "Who is yelling? Who keeps yelling at training camp?" Well, that's
awesome for energy. I mean, like, no lack of energy. Like, doesn't lack energy whatsoever. So, like, if that's something the Buccaneers were missing, which we all knew it was, that's going to help a little pick. It's going to give you a little pick me up there in the room. So I do like it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. David Sills is coming with some ties there, of course, with Zach Robinson coming from the Falcons. He's a wide receiver. Justin Skule, everybody knows him. Offensive tackle, he's coming back. And then also to Keemon Hall, a cornerback. He spent the time with the Titans, Cowboys, and Chargers. He's a 28-year-old as well, but he's mostly going to be looking at, some contributions in special teams and some depth at the cornerback position, along with 2 depth. We're going to talk about Chase Lucas, which was just announced yesterday, another secondary addition. Just had a short stint there with the San Francisco 49ers, but is going to help with some depth. And then also, too, this is one that me and River had to make sure we're trying to get the name right or how to say it. Hagai Nedebusi. I think that's right on right there. He's a defensive tackle. He's coming from
Nigeria.
And
if it's not, we're sorry.
Yeah, I know. If it's not, we're sorry. We'll handle it at $1. But he's a defensive tackle, so I don't think I'll last too long. But he's from Nigeria. He spent some time on the Texans practice squad, and we'll see. He might join the team as an international player pathway program developmental kind of guy coming in. But some signings there that the Bucs have made in the last week. But I think, of course, that Nunez-Roches is a big one there that all of us are excited for. And, of course, some things that they're doing at the offensive line and the cornerback position.
To be completely honest with you, I'm a little confused.
Are you?
Yeah, bringing back Nunez-Roches, bringing back Justin Skule, older players who have shown to be decent but not super productive, just going through familiarity. Skule, at least, is a swing tackle, had some success after that dreadful Lions game when he filled in for Tristan Wirfs, or Luke Gedeke, actually, in 2024. But he did play some good games after that, so credit where credit's due there. But you do have Ben Chukuma there as well, right? So the Bucs seem to really be going for some older players, and they're signing players that they used to have familiarity. And I just don't know if that's the right move given where the team's at the moment. So we'll see how that works out. A lot of special teams value in a lot of these signings. Corners, particularly the 2 corners, Lucas and Hall, definitely big special teams value there. Don't want them starting. So still, I think, need to get a cornerback high in this draft, especially given that your 2 starters there at cornerback are Zion McCollum and Benjamin Morrison. Morrison, injury riddled his first season, some up and down play there. McCollum, ever since he got his contract extension, has not been able to put together a consistent season.
Yeah.
So if those are your 2 starting corners, you might want to think about introducing a third cog in that machine, perhaps, to try and get everything running smoothly.
Yeah. I like some of the moves in the secondary, special teams wise, things of that nature. Those are good. The guy from San Francisco can play backup nickel. I forget his name because there were so many signings.
Chase Lucas.
Yep. So
yes,
he can
can't
play backup nickel.
Yes.
So there's kind of your Christian Izzian piece.
Well, JJ Roberts is your Christian Izzian.
Right, but they'll battle it. Those are your two guys that'll kind of be battling there for backup space. I think both of those guys make it by just saying, like, both of those guys will probably make the roster in some sort of fashion. But the Roches signing, it's not going to move the needle. You don't really necessarily need them. But again, I think this team was looking at some of these moves as like, okay, well, this locker room is stale. Like, there's nothing, going on. Like, it's just like we're going out here doing our jobs and whatever, moving forward. This is going to be different. I think this is more of a locker room signing, a guy that's going to, like I mentioned, bring up the energy levels in that room, in that locker room, and be able to get guys more excited to go out there and play football on a daily basis. And then the school signing, question mark, because they did like what Chukwuma was able to do last year in those spot moments. But I do think that, school was horrible for the Vikings this past season. That's an honest observation. I think everybody can make, and especially Vikings fans have made.
It was rough.
And that's fine. But we did see, as mentioned by River, he did have a little bit of success, and that was with Carbs, right? That's with the offensive line coach that the Buccaneers have. So, like, bringing him back is not a bad option, even though you do have a backup swing guy that can play both. Why not get some depth there with the possibility of even running him a little bit inside? You've had problems inside. He's just kind of going to be a depth piece. I'm not sure what his abilities are when it comes to working inside, or if he'll even be able to with whatever limitations he does have from being a tackle and how big he is. But it would be great, to see him take a step or be able to have a little bit of added additional depth there. So I want to wait and see on school. Don't love it. Don't hate it. It's just one of those situations like, okay, let's move on, see what happens next. But overall, they're not anything. None of these guys are going to move the needle. I think the special teams just got way better. That's pretty much what it's telling us, is that, hey, we're going to try and go get everybody's best special teams guy, so this doesn't happen again. And maybe that is, could be the difference between three of your losses last year and turning into 3 wins. Like, who knows what that impact will have, but I don't mind them. I think my favorite is the Nacho piece, because I do think that the team desperately needed somebody with some personality other than just going out about their business every single day.
Yeah, the Bucs have made a lot of moves this offseason throughout the special teams department, bringing in Danny Smith from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, there's been a lot of emphasis on that, making some changes with the special teams coaching as well. So it was much needed. I mean, it had to happen. And you like that adjustments are being made there. But like you guys said, it's nothing that's going to be so riveting here. There's a lot of depth pieces, some things you want to take care of on the special teams part of things. And then maybe, you just need some juice, like you said, Caleb. This team was missing that last year. That's why they brought in JPP at the last minute to try to revitalize the defensive side of the ball, the locker room there, even just maybe the entirety of that locker room, just because it felt like some things were dead. And we did see that after games where you go in the locker room, man, it's just like not a lot of communicating. Of course, the losses are losses, but it just felt like the confidence was shot from that team, and no one was really able to step up. And, I think a lot of the guys kept things to themselves, and maybe a guy like even Mike Evans, where, you would hear some things like Levante David speaking after games, but after that, it just kind of goes dead silent, and there's no communication afterward, and they're just trying to look for any kind of optimism, and that never really was the case for them in the latter half of 2025. So some interesting additions here, but I think that's going to do it for us, guys. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us on this Friday morning. If you haven't yet, consider hitting that subscribe button. We've appreciated all the newcomers coming in and communicating with us in the chat and liking the video as well. It just helps it go out to more Buccaneers fans on a week-to-week basis. Also, too, we're clipping up a lot of the show, so if you're not here to able to watch the entirety of the 1 hour-long episodes, I'm over here clipping those things up for you guys, and about 4 or 5 videos from each live video session. We upload those, so that's another reason why to definitely hit that subscribe button. Gentlemen, anything else from you guys on your end before we wrap this thing up?
Nope. Great to talk Bucs football, and great to watch the Masters throughout the.
That's right.
This weekend is the tradition unlike any other. So excited to dive more into that.
Yeah, I just wanted to warn River next time he goes on vacation, make sure that you're not being private investigated, for any wrongdoings as a reporter.
That's true. I will. You know me.
How's that Range Rover looking too, by the way?
Listen, guys. There's been allegations recently on my Twitter that I've bought a Range Rover, and I would never do that. I like them light, low to the ground, small, handling cars.
Fast.
Fast. Those Range Rovers, great for what they do. Opposite of my thing. So I don't want it to be known that I would ever do something like that. I did just invest in Bitcoin though, and it's
I was going to say no mining of Bitcoin. No mining of Bitcoin.
Exactly.
There we go.
For the people at home, I clicked the link and my Twitter got hacked, and I got it back though. So if you think you're above that sort of thing, you're not.
They'll grab you.
I was not. Yeah. Grab it.
Do not vote for anybody's random podcast.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. But yeah,
especially because everyone's got one nowadays, guys.
That is true.
You can vote for ours though. You can
vote for ours all day long, and
we'll be sending you links in your DMs about voting for our podcast.
Yeah, we will not be doing that. But you could definitely hit that like button, though. We would
subscribe.
Certainly appreciate that. All right, guys, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all's weekend, and we'll talk to you guys probably earlier next week on Here the Cannons Were Out.